It's a beautiful day today and we're reading some more Entitled Parents. Some of the stuff that we're going to read today is absolutely wild, so I hope you're ready and let's get into it. Enjoy, guys. My parents threw me out as a child and then expected everything from me when my grandparents died. I was born when my mother and my father were only 17. It forced both of my parents to drop out of high school and each get a GED so they could find work right away. My father especially was not happy about this because he had dreams of playing football in college and instead he had to work at a gas station. He said to my face many times that I ruined his dream. My mother hardly raised me at all as she had to work too. They had a cranky old lady next door watch me most of the time. She wasn't so bad, she gave me more attention than my parents did. My father eventually did land a better job as a manager due to his experience running the gas station. Right after that, my mum got pregnant with my sister. I was 6 when she was born. I wasn't exactly shown much love before that, but once my sister came along, it was made pretty obvious to even my 6-year-old self that I was unwanted. The only ones who seemed to care were my paternal grandparents and somewhat my babysitter, and they were more like my parents because they treated me the way that a little kid needed to be loved. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and as my sister got older, it went from me sharing a bedroom with her to me being kicked out of the room entirely. I slept on the couch for 2 years and I barely had anything to my name other than clothes, school supplies and an old Game Boy. When I was 10, my parents decided they were going to move away, but this move did not include me. I ended up actually being fine with this as my grandparents had agreed to take me in. My life was instantly better. I got my own room again and my grandparents gifted me a brand new N64 in 1996. That Christmas I got a Game Boy Pocket too, and there were a couple of other kids my age in the neighborhood that I got to hang out with. We rode bikes, played video games, shot cans with pellet guns, built forts, and got dirty playing in the creek. You know, stuff a normal kid would enjoy. I was finally happy. As time went on, I grew up and I eventually moved out, but later moved back in to help my grandparents around the house as they were getting old and living off their retirement savings. So some rent money from me went a long way in paying the bills. My grandpa was the kind of person who wanted to build a bomb shelter during the Cold War, but never got around to it. He wanted to volunteer for the military in the 60s, but was turned down due to a medical condition and the fact that his eyesight was not great. So he focused on saving whatever he thought he needed. He told me many times it was better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it. Our area suffered from numerous power outages in winter due to heavy winds and storms, so having gasoline and propane for heaters and generators was a must. All these saving habits became my own as time went on, because it was better to need this stuff rarely than to not have it at all. Of course, there was the HOA bothering us, but that's its own story. The problem is about 5 years back, my grandma died suddenly. My grandpa was heartbroken. He also went about a year and a half later. Pretty much everything they owned was willed to me. Their savings, their house, their vehicles, their stuff, everything. The house was long paid off and grandpa knew how to keep up with its maintenance. In fact, after grandma died, he kind of doubled down on renovating the place. He had the roof redone, the house repainted by us inside and out, and we fixed a lot of little things. Grandpa's neighbor George even came by to help redo the plumbing. Ironically, the HOA was rather happy with these changes because the house didn't look run down anymore. One morning I was making breakfast and my grandpa never came downstairs. You couldn't keep this man from his bacon, so I went to check on him and he wasn't moving. I called 911 and paramedics came, only to tell me that he'd passed in his sleep. My parents made grandpa's funeral a crap show. They didn't even bother to show up for grandma's. They were too busy, and at grandpa's funeral they didn't even seem to grieve at all. My sister also showed up wearing a brightly coloured designer dress, which I wasn't happy about as it was a church clothes only function. I noticed my parents repeatedly whispering to each other and glaring at me whenever I looked at them. Come to find out at the will reading that my parents knew that they'd been disinherited long ago for their treatment of me, and they thought it extremely unfair that I got everything. They threatened to sue me to contest the will, and I got repeated calls and messages from my father, mother and sister telling me that I needed to do the right thing and give my father what was supposed to be his. I told them all to flake off in far more unsavory words. My parents ended up taking me to court to challenge the will, but the judge ruled in favour after seeing the will and hearing us both out, so it wasn't a long drawn out legal battle. The judge even looked at my parents with absolute disgust after seeing the will and hearing about their mistreatment of me in childhood. He called my father a terrible parent and that my grandparents were right to disown him. My father just hung his head in silence, but he made sure to stop me outside the courtroom to tell me that I was the biggest mistake of his life and that if he could go back in time he'd make sure that I never existed. He should have been a football star. Oh god, how embarrassing. Imagine blaming your entire life on your kid and instead he has to wear a name tag from 9 to 5. I told him that mistake or not, grandma and grandpa could see what kind of nasty person he was. I didn't ask to be born and the only real love I ever got was from my grandparents and he was no father of mine anymore. I got a few more threatening and harassing phone calls as well as some letters from my parents, all demanding money among other stuff, but over time they just stopped because I completely stonewalled them. I never responded to the emails or the letters, and I stayed silent during the phone calls. A few times I left the phone sitting on the counter with them ranting until they realized I wasn't even listening. Aside from not getting the house or the money, my parents seemed particularly irked that they couldn't get a rise out of me, but I was prepared to go to war against them, and they knew that, so in the end they left me alone. From what I know looking at Facebook the past decade, my sister tried getting into modeling, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced, and is currently unhappy working a job that she feels is beneath her. My mother currently works in retail and is also vocal about her disdain of it. Like my father, she peaked in high school. She was a cheerleader back then and even had her old uniform framed on the wall. My father's pretty much had the same job for 25 years. He must be good at it if he's still doing it. As for me, I'm in my late 30s now, and I live pretty much debt-free in a nice neighborhood. I haven't really had a girlfriend since high school, and I've had little motivation to ever have another relationship, but loneliness gets to everybody, so maybe I'll try to find somebody soon. Not many are in the financial position that I am at my age, single with a paid-off house and 2 vehicles and a decent amount in the bank. I guess I could aim to be a stepfather. That might be more my speed. Oh, that's so gross, OP. Like, oh, you were a mistake, and I would have been, what, like a football player or something, did they say? So embarrassing and sad. But yeah, it's so awesome that you're doing well now, OP. And your grandparents sounded like legends. The parents, though, definitely not legends. The next one is called My Grandmother Tried to Steal My Apartment and Make Me Go Back to My Parents so she could punish me. I'm 29 and I had been dealing with this for some time, but recently this became ridiculous. My grandmother is the most special person I ever knew, and by special I mean one of the most frustrating, entitled, narcissistic, condescending biatches on earth. She believes that she's the matriarch of the family, the highest authority that we must all obey, and for that she had done a lot of things to the family all over the years, and recently I became her main objective. A couple of months ago she organised a family meeting at her house, believing it was just a family meal. We all went, and when everybody was there she revealed her true intentions. It was a trap. Apparently somebody told my grandmother that I was dating a girl, my girlfriend, and basically she exposed me to all of the family. In that moment I hadn't even told my parents about it yet. The following 30 minutes were a non-stop humiliation in front of all of the family, saying how much of a failure I was, a shame to the family, a sinner, how embarrassed she was that all of her church's friends knew that I was a shameless pervert. When I couldn't take her crap anymore, I got up from my chair just to be slapped in the face by her. Oh my god, for disrespecting her. After seeing that, the rest of the family finally intervened, getting her apart before she tried to pull my hair. The following week she was nothing more than a constant headache, endless calls and text messages telling me such beautiful things like I'll burn for my sins, that I was a disgrace, that I should stop fooling around and correct my life. She even lectured my parents, demanding that they correct me to make me quit my job and find a husband, because that was the right thing to do and what I should be doing. Also, she took every chance that she got to say how evil and selfish I was for ruining her good image. Last Saturday she outdid herself. While I was in my apartment there was a knock on the door, and when I opened it I saw that it was her. By that point I was no longer trying to hide my displeasure from her, and I just said, "Ah, it's you, what do you want?" Without even being invited to come in, she went into my house, began to look around the place with an obvious gesture of disgust and disapproval on her face, and then turned to me with that look of superiority, like she was doing me a favor just for being there. Kicked them out, OP. She told me that she'd already given me more than enough time to reconsider and correct my life, so she was there so I could apologize to her. I just laughed sarcastically and told her that she was crazy and that she could go now. She then started lecturing me with the same speech again, but I didn't take it. I interrupted her and I let out all the things I've wanted to tell her for a long time, that she was a stupid old witch, that she was not an authority figure to anybody, that her presence alone ruins our day, that nobody can stand her, that she's such a horrible and suffocating grandmother and mother, that she should not make it strange that none of her children love her or visit her unless she forces them to. I knew I'd hurt her by the way that she tensed her face and how she tried to hide the tears in her eyes. It was then that she said, "Enough, I can see that you don't understand the good way, so I'll have to correct you the old way. Give me the keys to this place. You'll return to your parents and you'll be grounded until you learn to obey and do what I ordered." I still had the keys in my hand from when I opened the door, to which she extended hers as if waiting for me to give them to her. I laughed out loud. This was too ridiculous. I couldn't take it anymore, and apparently that made her so mad that she lunged at me, trying to grab my keys. We struggled. There were screams and things falling out of place. The damn witch got to the point of digging her nails into my arms and biting my hands. The scandal was so bad that a couple of neighbors went out to see what was going on, and when my grandmother saw them, she started shouting that I was a thief and I was trying to rob her house. Obviously they didn't believe her. They were my neighbors, they knew me. They separated her from me, and when she saw that they didn't believe her and that I wouldn't obey her, she threatened me with, "Your parents will know about this," and then left. Since then she's been telling everybody how I insulted her and I violently attacked her. We all know her and we all know that she's a liar. She makes everybody's life harder. My immediate thought is, why do you even talk to them anymore? But OP did say in the comments that they've tried to go no contact but it didn't work or something. So yeah, like this comment says, call the police, press charges, your neighbors are witnesses, and file a restraining order. Yeah, like you need to do something that she's gonna actually understand and be like, oh, wait a minute, maybe maybe I don't have complete control over your life, or the lives of everybody in the family for that matter. So sorry you've had to deal with that, OP. You weren't exaggerating when you called her a witch. She genuinely sounds like an evil villain. There's an update here. Hey everybody, after the last post I did take some advice that people told me here. I went to the police and I filed a report about what my grandmother did. I had some photos of the bites and nail marks, and even one of my neighbors came with me as a witness, but police didn't help. They said that any of that wasn't enough proof to do something and suggested to talk and solve it. I knew police wouldn't help, as some said here, but I now have a paper trail. I bought cameras for my door, not very expensive ones, but they do record in a very decent quality, and they arrived just at the right moment because 2 days after my grandmother showed up again, this time I didn't open the door, and that made her angry. She noticed I was in the house and kept on knocking on the door for 30 minutes. After that, she started hitting it and kicking it, yelling at me to open, that as my grandmother, I must obey her, and of course, lots of cursing. She left after the neighbors told her that we were calling the police and that I had everything recorded. That night, I sent the video to the family group chat, and this leads to my next point. I went no contact with my grandmother. I decided I don't want it in my life anymore. After sending the video to the family, I told them that I was cutting all contact with her. It did look like it was something that everybody wanted to do, but they were kind of waiting for somebody to do it first, because half of the family agreed to do the same after I told them, and almost all of them on the following days. My grandmother noticed and tried to show up to everybody's house, but we'd had enough. Except for one aunt, nobody opened the door. I would like to say that everything ends here and we all go on living our life, but that was not the case. My grandmother showed up to my workplace and started one of the messiest dramas I've ever seen. She claimed that everything was my fault, that I made the family stop talking to her. She then ordered me to take her to the boss's office because she wanted me to quit my job and to start obeying her. I just asked her to leave the building and I turned my back on her. That only made her even more angry because she tried to attack me again. Some of my co-workers were able to keep her away from me until security arrived, but in those minutes my grandmother threatened me, saying that I would regret ruining everything, and in brackets this was disturbing, to be very careful because she knows lots of people and she knows where I live, and it would be too sad that somebody breaks into your house during the night, and even worse if he did something to you, or maybe it wouldn't be that bad if that corrected your perverted deviation. What? Again, I went to the police with witnesses and videos of the security cameras, and again they didn't help, but at least now I've got enough for a restraining order. Yeah, that's revolting. We read some horrible stuff like pretty much every single day, but that's on a different level. There's a comment here that says, I'm no lawyer nor judge or police officer, but that's got to be some sort of harassment with the threat of bodily harm. I sure as hell hope that she's banned from your store. How this woman is still out on the streets is insane. Good luck and I hope you're staying safe. And like the comment above that one says, if it's a regular officer you're talking to, I'd start going up the chain of command until you find somebody who can help. The next one is called Entitled Brother Sells My Stuff and My Parents Defend Him, so I sue him. Sorry if my English isn't correct, I'm French. I'm 23 years old and a very reserved person. I don't like to interact with other people, but I don't hate anybody. I've never been angry with a person because I assume that if you don't interfere with my life, everything's fine. I have, however, always been very close to my 17-year-old brother, even though he is very different from me, athletic and sociable, and we have always shared our stuff since birth. Recently, he started to become the little boss of the house, with his parents buying him everything he wants despite his catastrophic grades. He smokes, he drinks, and starts to force me to be mainly a cab driver. This puts a very bad atmosphere in the house with my mum yelling at him a lot. Fortunately, I bought my dream computer with a lot of work, more than $5,000, and every night I lock myself in my room and I'm coding all night or playing video games. It's my little bit of quiet time between my very tiring engineering studies and the atmosphere at home. Then comes my 6-month internship in a big city in another country, and at the very beginning I live it very bad because I've never left a small city. It was so difficult to live alone in an apartment, but after a few weeks I really changed, which did surprise me. I enjoy going out with people, I feel more confident, and I even changed my clothing style to be more adult, and I love it. The bonus is that I've started working out since I don't have my computer in my spare time. At the end of my internship I go back home and I find the same atmosphere as before, and nobody notices my change of appearance. I ignore this, and when I arrive at night I only want to find my computer to avoid the screams, but when I go back to my room it's not there anymore. So I ask my mum and she tells me that my brother sold it. What the hell? Sold your computer without even asking? I think at that point my brain just paused, and it was 10 seconds before I even asked my mum if it was a joke. She said no, and I start to see red. I teleport to my brother's room and I ask him why. He answers that it was to buy sneakers and clothing, and I ask him again, explaining this time that I want to know why he sold my computer, because I did not give him the right to do it, and that I always use it for work. He laughs and tells me that I can buy another one, and that $1,000 is nothing for me. When he tells me that he sold it for $1,000, it's worth $5,000. Normally I would have ran away to my room to swear, but here I get angry and I grab his laptop before destroying it on the floor. The noise brings back my parents and my brother yells at me, asking me what happened to me. I yell and I explain that he had no right, that he's an ingrate, and that I'd worked for it and it was mine. My father angrily tells me to keep my voice down and says that it's just a computer. I told him with all of my anger to shut up and that he should realize that it's not normal to steal people's stuff, I leave angry because even my parents don't support me, and I go to the police to file a complaint. As the value of the goods does exceed $1,000, proven by the purchase order, my brother's risking prison because he's now 18. My parents put pressure on me to drop the lawsuit against my brother, but I don't want to be with them anymore since they consider me a little less than nothing. But I'm not afraid, and I went to the end of the procedure, and my brother just gave me back $5,000 plus the pay for my lawyer. He should have to do public works to pay back his debt, but my parents paid for him. My whole family hates me more or less now, and I cut off ties with everybody. I'm now living with a cousin, and I'm about to graduate, so I'll soon have a job. I'm in a hurry to leave and not see my family again, which doesn't bother me because of the way they considered me, and I don't think I was wrong, and that my action allowed my brother to question himself on the importance of work. My mum did want to talk to me the other day, but I just told her that if she wants to be happy, she should quit my dad, and that I'd be there for her. I hope she'll make the good decision. Wow, that's unbelievable, OP. And what, they don't realize what they did was wrong? That's so awful. The fact that not even for a second they were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't sell your $5,000 computer without even asking, and keeping the money so they can buy clothes and shoes or something, did they say? Oh, that's so unbelievably aggravating. And yeah, you're doing the right thing, OP. You don't want to be surrounded by people like that. And the good thing is you don't have to be there. Yeah, good luck with everything in your future, OP. The next one is called Entitled Parent Wants to Clear a Kids Park to do a photo shoot. This happened this morning. I took my son to a farm park, and after you've been through all the animals, there's a play area with a climbing frame, a slide and swings, etc. It's pretty busy today, about 30 or so kids playing on the frame and the slide. Enter Entitled Parent with a baby less than 6 months old. She's got her arms full of fancy scarves, artificial flowers, and a proper camera. Entitled Parent keeps trying to put her baby at the bottom of the slide, and is getting more and more annoyed that kids keep coming down it, so she approaches us parents, stood off to the side doing small talk, doesn't even ask, just states, I need all of your kids to stop playing for a bit so I can get these photos on the slide. Obviously gets told no, it's a play area, not a photo shoot. So Entitled Parent storms away from us and instead starts shouting at the kids who come to the top of the slide, actually calls my son rude and inconsiderate for asking if he can come down the slide, and he said please. She takes one of her scarves and starts trying to tie it across the slide to stop kids coming down. She's getting angrier and angrier and eventually shouts, get your freaking kids out of the way, this is my photo shoot. One of the other parents went to find the park manager. Me and one of the dads try to calmly talk to Entitled Parent, explain that our kids are playing and it isn't fair to try to stop them for her. There's plenty of other beautiful spots in the farm park where she can go for photos. Eventually the manager does show up, tells this woman she's creating a health and safety hazard, and is asking her to leave the farm completely. We could hear her shouting and swearing all the way to the car park. She's suing for discrimination, apparently. What a fun morning. That's so bloody entitled. I know we're reading Entitled Parents, but that's something else. Like, oh yes, the entire world revolves around me. You must do what I say because I'm so important and entitled. Yeah, that's so frustrating, and that's enough for today. Let's read something that isn't aggravating. Oh yeah, this one. Man posing with a picture of the forest that he restored. Yeah, how incredible is that? I don't know the story behind this, but I'm definitely gonna look it up. That's so beautiful though. Such a massive accomplishment. I don't need to write it down. I'll remember it. Me at the store. Wow, that's so relatable. Kinda scary how relatable that is. And it's so annoying when you get home and you're like, oh, I forgot like 20 different things. Yeah, definitely write it down. This man I work with is a single dad with a 15-year-old daughter who recently turned vegan. And every time I see him, he asks me what I'm having for lunch that day and writes it down for her if he thinks it's something that she'd like. My heart. Wow, that's so cute. What an awesome dad. Damn, that's so beautiful. What a legend. Like, doesn't need to, but does it anyway. That's so thoughtful. Just a reminder in case your mind is playing tricks on you today. You matter, you're loved, and your presence on this earth makes a difference whether you see it or not. You're gonna be okay. Oh, that's so beautiful and such a good reminder and a beautiful place to end today's episode. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did, make sure you let me know down below and like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Just Some Bored Kid. I don't comment often, but I've just got to say that I love your content. It's very nice to have something to listen to while I do my daily tasks. Wow, that's so awesome. Thank you for the support. You're going about your day and I'm like in the background making noise. That's so awesome. I really appreciate it. I hope the videos make your day a little bit better. And yeah, thank you for watching. Okay, I'm gonna go make a pizza. Also guys, we're about to hit 200,000 subs, which is so wild. We're probably over 200k when you're watching this. And yeah, thank you so much for the support. That's so many people. That's so unbelievable. The Vincey family is growing every single day. Okay, I'm out of here. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!